Hello? Jaewon? Please pick up. Please pick up. The phone rang in the darkness, its shrill tone cutting through the silence of the Mercedes as Jaewon sat in Seoul traffic. He glanced at the unknown number flashing on his screen, his jaw tight. Unknown callers meant problems, and he had enough of those already. Hello? Jaewon, please. He considered letting it go to voicemail, but something in the desperation of that voice made his finger hover over the answer button. With a sharp exhale, he pressed it. This is Jaewon. Oh, thank God. Jaewon, it's Ji-Hai, your ex-wife. His blood went cold at those three words. Ex-wife. Amara, the woman he'd divorced 8 months ago. The woman who'd walked away from him without looking back. Your ex-wife has been in an accident, Ji-Hai continued, her voice cracking with sobs. A terrible accident. Seoul General Hospital. You need to come. Now. Right now. What kind of accident? Jaewon's voice was controlled, but his hand gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. Car crash. Her brakes failed on the expressway. Jaewon, she's in surgery. They don't know if she'll make it. Please, just come. There's something you need to know. Something she should have told you months ago. The line went dead. Welcome to Seoul Africa Stories. Before we begin, take 1 second to subscribe. It truly helps this channel grow and allows us to bring you more powerful stories like this. Also, let us know where you are watching from. Jaewon stared at his phone for 3 seconds. Then he threw the Mercedes into gear, cutting across 2 lanes of traffic. Horns blared behind him as he accelerated toward the hospital, his mind racing faster than the car. Amara, the name alone sent pain shooting through his chest. The woman he'd loved more than his own life. The woman who'd left him because she couldn't stomach what he was anymore. A criminal. A monster. That's what she'd called him the day she'd signed the divorce papers. I can't watch you become something I don't recognize, she'd said, tears streaming down her face. I can't be married to a man who solves problems with violence, who builds empires on fear. He'd let her go. It was the only decent thing he'd done in years. Now she was dying, and he was racing through Seoul like a man possessed. Seoul General Hospital loomed ahead, its white walls bright against the night sky. Jaewon abandoned his car at the emergency entrance, ignoring the protests of the parking attendant. His Italian leather shoes clicked against the linoleum as he strode through the automatic doors. Amara Okafor, he said to the receptionist, his voice leaving no room for bureaucratic delays. Car accident victim. Where is she? The young woman's eyes widened at his intensity. Sir, I need to check. Now, she typed frantically. 4th floor. Surgical wing. But sir, only family members. Jaewon was already moving toward the elevators. The ride up felt like an eternity. His reflection in the polished doors showed a man who looked nothing like the composed crime boss who'd sat in that meeting 30 minutes ago. His dark hair was disheveled from running his hands through it. His eyes were wild. The elevator dinged. 4th floor. He stepped out into a hallway that smelled of antiseptic and fear. A woman stood near the nurse's station, her face buried in her hands. Ji-Hai. She looked up as his footsteps approached, her eyes red and swollen. Jaewon. She rushed toward him. You came. Where is she? Still in surgery. It's been 3 hours. The doctors said massive internal bleeding, head trauma, multiple fractures. They're doing everything they can, but her voice broke. They said to prepare for the worst. Jaewon felt like he'd been hit in the chest. What happened? Brake failure doesn't just happen. I don't know. The police are investigating. Ji-Hai wiped her eyes, then looked at him with an expression he couldn't read. Fear? Guilt? Jaewon, there's something I need to tell you. Something Amara made me swear I'd never reveal. What are you talking about? Ji-Hai took a shaking breath. Come with me. You need to see something first. She led him down a different corridor, away from the surgical wing. They passed rooms full of beeping machines and sleeping patients. Finally, she stopped in front of a door marked NICU, Neonatal Intensive Care Unit. Why are we here? Jaewon asked, confused. Ji-Hai pushed open the door. Inside, soft lighting illuminated rows of incubators. Tiny babies slept inside plastic cocoons, their little chests rising and falling. A nurse looked up from her station. He's in the back corner, Ji-Hai said quietly. He? Jaewon's heart was pounding now. Ji-Hai, what is this? She walked to the last incubator in the row. Jaewon followed, his legs feeling like lead. And then he saw it. A baby. So small he could probably fit in Jaewon's hands. Hooked up to monitors and tubes, but breathing steadily. The baby had a shock of dark curly hair and skin that was a beautiful blend of both his parents. His face was peaceful in sleep. "This is Taemin," Jihae whispered. "He's 2 months old. He was in the car seat when the accident happened. Minor injuries, some bruising, but the doctors say he'll be fine." Jaewon stared at the baby, his mind refusing to process what he was seeing. 2 months old. Yes. Amara was pregnant when we divorced. Yes. The word hung in the air like a bomb. Jaewon's hands started to shake. He pressed them against the incubator, leaning forward, trying to breathe. "She was pregnant," he repeated, his voice barely audible. "For 8 months, she was pregnant with my child, and she never told me." "She wanted to protect him," Jihae said quickly. "From your world, from the danger. She knew if you found out, you'd never let her go. You'd try to keep them both close, and she couldn't let your life touch her baby. Your son. My son." The words felt foreign in his mouth. Jaewon stared at the tiny human in the incubator, and something inside his chest cracked open. "I have a son. His name is Kim Taemin. She gave him your family name. Even after everything, she wanted him to know who his father was." The nurse approached cautiously. "Excuse me, are you family?" "I'm his father," Jaewon said, the words still feeling impossible. The nurse's expression softened. "Would you like to hold him? Skin-to-skin contact is very beneficial for premature babies." He was premature, born at 36 weeks, small but healthy. The accident caused some early labor complications, but we managed to stabilize both of them until delivery 2 months ago. The nurse began preparing the baby. "He's been waiting for someone to visit him. Mom's been too injured to come down from her floor." Jaewon looked at Jihae in confusion. "She's been here? For 2 months?" "She never left the hospital after he was born," Jihae explained. "The delivery was traumatic. She had complications. She's been recovering here, staying close to Taemin. And then today, she told me she needed to go out, just for an hour, to get some air. She took her car and someone cut her brakes." Jaewon finished, his voice turning cold. "Because brake lines didn't just fail. Not on a car that was barely 2 years old. Not unless someone wanted them to fail." The nurse placed the baby in his arms. Jaewon froze, terrified he'd break this fragile little creature. But then Taemin's eyes opened, dark and unfocused, and looked up at him. The baby made a small sound, then grabbed Jaewon's finger with a grip that was surprisingly strong. Everything stopped. The hospital sounds faded, the fluorescent lights dimmed. There was only this moment. This perfect tiny human who was half him and half the woman he'd loved with everything in him. His son. His child. "Hello, Taemin," Jaewon whispered, his voice breaking. "I'm your father. I'm so sorry I didn't know about you. I'm so sorry I wasn't there." The baby yawned, his little face scrunching up, and Jaewon felt tears burning in his eyes for the first time in a decade. Since he was a teenager, he hadn't cried. Crying was weakness. But this overwhelming rush of love and terror and regret was too much to contain. "She didn't tell you because she loves you both," Jihae said softly. "She knew you'd change your whole life for this baby. Give up everything. And she thought that would destroy you. That you'd resent her, resent him. So she left. She was going to raise him alone, keep him away from your world." "My world," Jaewon repeated bitterly. He looked down at his son, at this innocent life that had come from him. She was right. My world is poison. It's violence and blood and betrayal. But you're his father. He deserves to know you. Does he? Does he deserve a father who... Jaewon stopped himself. The nurse was still nearby, cleaning equipment, definitely listening. "We need to talk. Privately." Jihae nodded. The nurse took Taemin back carefully, returning him to the incubator. Jaewon watched his son settle back into sleep and felt a piece of his heart stay in that room as he walked away. They found an empty family waiting room. Jaewon paced like a caged animal while Chai sat, exhausted, on a plastic chair. "Tell me everything," he said. "From the beginning." "She found out she was pregnant the day after you signed the divorce papers. She was going to tell you, but then she overheard you on the phone with Tai Sung. You were planning some kind of operation, something violent. She said she listened to you give orders to hurt people, and she realized she couldn't bring a baby into that world. Jaewon closed his eyes. He remembered that call. A rival gang had been encroaching on his territory. He'd ordered a message to be sent. A brutal one. She disappeared, Jihye continued. Changed her number, moved to a different part of the city. She came to me for help. I found her a small apartment, helped her with doctor's appointments. The pregnancy was hard. She was stressed, alone, terrified. When Taemin came early, I was the only one in the delivery room with her. And for 2 months, she's been here, alone, with our son. Jaewon's voice was hollow. While I've been across the city, living my life, not knowing. She made me promise not to tell you. She said it was better this way. Safer. Safer. The word tasted like ash. And now she's dying on an operating table because someone tried to kill her. Jihye's head snapped up. What? No, it was an accident. Brake failure. Cars don't just fail, Jihye. Not like that. Jaewon pulled out his phone and dialed. Taesung answered on the first ring. Boss? I need you to look into something. Amara Okafor, my ex-wife, was in a car accident tonight. Her vehicle is probably in a police impound. I need to know if those brakes were tampered with. Your ex-wife? Boss, why would anyone? Just do it. And Taesung, I need complete discretion. No one in the organization knows about this. No one knows I'm here. Understand? Understood. I'll call you back within the hour. Jaewon hung up and turned to Jihye. If someone tried to hurt her, I need to know why. Has she been involved in anything? Any trouble? Any enemies? Enemies? Jihye looked bewildered. She's been living like a hermit, Jaewon. Hospital, apartment, hospital. That's it. Her whole world has been that baby. Then why would someone want her dead? Maybe it really was just an accident. But Jaewon knew better. In his line of work, coincidences didn't exist. And the timing of this, right after she'd finally ventured out of her safe hospital bubble, felt wrong. A doctor emerged from the surgical wing, still in scrubs, his mask pulled down. His expression made Jaewon's stomach drop. Family of Amara Okafor? Yes, Jaewon and Jihye said simultaneously. The doctor looked between them. The surgery is complete. We've managed to stop the internal bleeding and stabilize her spine. The next 24 hours are critical. Will she live? Jaewon demanded. I can't make any promises. She has significant head trauma. We've induced a medical coma to allow her brain to heal. When she wakes up, if she wakes up, we'll know more. If she wakes up, the words echoed in Jaewon's mind like a death sentence. Can I see her? The doctor hesitated. Are you family? I can only allow. I'm her husband. The lie came easily. And the father of her child. Very well. Follow me. The ICU was a maze of beeping machines and harsh lights. The doctor led them to a room where Amara lay motionless in the bed, tubes and wires connecting her to a dozen different machines. Her beautiful dark skin was ashen, her face bruised and swollen, barely recognizable. A ventilator breathed for her with mechanical precision. Jaewon felt his knees weaken. This beautiful, fierce woman who'd once looked at him like he hung the stars, now reduced to this broken thing, fighting for every breath. Besties, if you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe. Also, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Drop your country or city. We love seeing our global family. He moved to her bedside slowly, as if approaching something sacred and fragile. Her hand lay against the white sheets, an IV taped to the back of it. Jaewon took it carefully, feeling how cold her skin was. Amara, he whispered. I'm here. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. The machines beeped, their steady rhythm, uncaring. The ventilator hissed. She didn't move. She can't hear you, the doctor said gently from the doorway. You don't know that. Jaewon's voice was sharp. People in comas can sometimes hear. I've read about it. The doctor didn't argue. I'll give you some privacy. A nurse will check in every 15 minutes. When they were alone, Jihye stood on the other side of the bed, tears streaming down her face. She has to wake up. Taemin needs his mother. Tell me more, Jaewon said, still holding Amara's hand. Tell me about the pregnancy. About Taemin. Everything I missed. Jihye wiped her eyes and began. She was sick a lot in the first trimester. Morning sickness that lasted all day. She kept working at the international law firm until she couldn't hide it anymore. then told them she needed to take a leave for health reasons. She never told anyone at work about the baby. She was still working? Jaewon's voice rose. Pregnant and alone and still trying to work? She needed the money. The medical bills, the apartment. She's too proud to take help from her family back in Lagos. They didn't approve of her marriage to you. Remember? They warned her about marrying into your world. She couldn't go crawling back to them pregnant and divorced, proving them right. Jaewon felt acid in his throat. While he'd been sitting on millions, his pregnant ex-wife had been struggling to pay rent. Go on. The second trimester was better. She started to show. I took photos for her to remember. She'd talk to the baby every night in both English and Igbo, telling him stories about her childhood in Nigeria, about her dreams for him. She decided on the name Taemin early. She wanted a name that honored both his heritage, Korean and African. She wanted him to grow up proud of both sides. Did she ever talk about me? Jihye was quiet for a long moment. Every day. She'd wonder what you were doing, if you were safe, if you'd moved on. She cried a lot, Jaewon. She missed you terribly. She'd look at her wedding ring, the one she still kept in a box, and cry. But she was convinced she'd made the right choice. And the birth? Traumatic. She went into labor at 36 weeks. Something about stress triggering it early. I rushed her here, and they did an emergency C-section. Taemin was small but breathing on his own. But Amara hemorrhaged. They had to do a blood transfusion, keep her in intensive care for 3 days. I thought I'd lose her then. Jaewon's grip on her hand tightened. She'd almost died bringing their son into the world, and he'd known nothing about it. When she finally got to hold Taemin, she wouldn't let him go for hours. Just sat there crying and telling him she loved him in 3 languages, that she'd protect him always, that he'd never have to be afraid, that he'd grow up knowing both his cultures, both his worlds, but never the dark one you lived in. Afraid of what? Jihye met his eyes, of the life his father lived, of guns and blood and violence. She wanted him to grow up normal, safe, free. The words hit like bullets. Jaewon released Amara's hand and walked to the window, staring out at the Seoul night. Somewhere in this city, his men were carrying out his orders. Money was being collected, territory protected, enemies warned. His empire ran like a machine, efficient and brutal. And his son was 2 floors down, innocent and perfect, born into a world his mother had died trying to keep him from. His phone buzzed. Taesung. Talk to me. Boss, you were right. The brake lines were cut. Clean job, professional. Whoever did this knew what they were doing. Jaewon's blood turned to ice. How long had they been cut? Forensics says within the last 24 hours. The cuts were designed to fail gradually. She probably noticed the brakes getting soft, but by the time she realized it was serious, it was too late. So someone wanted her dead. Someone who knew where she'd be, what car she drove, and had the skill to sabotage it. Jaewon's mind raced through possibilities. Who knew she was my ex-wife? Within the organization. Everyone, boss. The divorce wasn't exactly quiet. But who knew she was still in Seoul? Who knew where to find her? That's the question. I'll start pulling surveillance footage from around her apartment building and the hospital. See if anyone was watching her. Do it quietly. I don't want anyone knowing I'm involved yet. Boss, if someone's targeting her because of you, we need to move fast. They might try again. I know. That's why I'm staying here. Keep me updated. Jaewon hung up and turned to Jihye. Someone cut her brakes. This was attempted murder. Jihye's face went white, but who would want to hurt her? She hasn't done anything. She's just been taking care of Taemin. It's because of me. The realization settled over Jaewon like a heavy blanket. Someone's using her to get to me. But you're divorced. Why would anyone think hurting her would matter to you? Because whoever it is doesn't know about the divorce being real. Or they do know, and they're sending a message. Jaewon paced, his mind working through scenarios. Or they know about Taemin. That's impossible. We've been so careful, nobody knows. Apparently somebody does. Jaewon pulled out his phone again, scrolling through contacts. I need to get them both somewhere safe. Private security, armed guards, somewhere my enemies can't reach. Jaewon, Amara didn't want this. She didn't want you pulling them into your world. My world found them anyway. His voice echoed off the ICU walls. A nurse looked in, concerned. Jaewon lowered his voice. She's lying here because of me. My son is 2 floors down without his mother because someone wanted to hurt me. Her wishes don't matter anymore. Survival does. Jihai looked at him for a long moment. You've changed. No, I'm exactly what she always feared I'd become. That's not what I meant. I see the way you looked at Taemin. You love him already. You love her still. That's not the cold man she described when she left. Love doesn't keep people safe. Power does. If you believe that, you haven't learned anything. Before Jaewon could respond, an alarm shrieked from one of the machines. Amara's heart monitor showed an erratic pattern, the beeps coming faster, more chaotic. What's happening? Jihai grabbed the bed rail. Nurses rushed in, followed by the doctor. Step back, please. Jaewon and Jihai were pushed aside as medical staff swarmed the bed. Someone called for medication. Someone else adjusted the ventilator. The heart monitor screamed its warning. She's going into cardiac arrest! The doctor grabbed the defibrillator paddles. Clear. Amara's body jerked as electricity shot through her. The heart monitor showed a flat line for 1 terrible second, its erratic pattern. Again. Clear. Another shock. Another jerk. Jaewon watched, frozen, as they fought to keep her alive. This couldn't be happening. She couldn't die. Not now. Not when he just found out he was a father. Not when there was so much unsaid between them. We're losing her, a nurse called out. No. Jaewon lunged forward, but Taesung appeared from nowhere, holding him back. When had he arrived? Let me goss. Let them work. You can't help her right now. Clear. The third shock seemed to work. The monitor stabilized into a steadier rhythm. The doctor checked her vitals, his face tense. She's stable, for now, but we need to increase her medication and monitor her more closely. This kind of stress on her system. He looked at Jaewon. You should prepare yourself. She's not out of danger. The medical team filed out, leaving Jaewon standing there, shaking. Taesung released his arm. How long have you been here? Jaewon asked. Long enough to see you nearly break down a door. Taesung's expression was unreadable. Boss, I need to talk to you about what I found. They stepped into the hallway. Jie stayed with Amara, holding her hand, whispering prayers in both Korean and Igbo. What is it? The surveillance footage from her apartment building. Someone was watching her for at least 2 weeks. Dark sedan, rotated license plates, professional surveillance. And boss. Taesung pulled up a photo on his phone. I recognized the car. It belongs to one of Kang Dae's crew. Jaewon's blood ran cold. Kang Dae was his underboss, his second in command, a man he trusted for 5 years. You're certain? Positive. I have the vehicle registration records. The car is listed under a shell company that Kang Dae uses for his side operations. Side operations I don't know about? Apparently so. Boss, if Kang Dae ordered this hit, we have a serious problem. He's positioned high enough to do real damage if he turns. Jaewon's mind raced. Kang Dae had always been ambitious, always hungry for more power. But betrayal? Murder of an ex-wife? Why would he target Amara? I don't know yet, but I'll find out. Taesung paused. There's something else. The hospital called your office 3 months ago. Someone claiming to be your assistant took the call. They were notifying you that Amara had given birth and listed you as the father on the birth certificate. What? Jaewon felt the ground shift beneath him. I never got that message. Exactly. Someone intercepted it. Someone who had access to your office, your calls, your information. Someone who knew that if you found out about the baby, everything would change. The pieces started falling into place. If Jaewon had known about Taemin, he would have pulled away from the organization to protect his family. He would have become distracted, vulnerable. The perfect time for an ambitious underboss to make a move. Kang Dae has been planning a coup, Jaewon said slowly. That's my theory. And Amara somehow became a threat to that plan. But how? She's been hiding from me for 8 months. She has nothing to do with the organization. Maybe she saw something, heard something. Or maybe Kang Dae is just tying up loose ends before he makes his move. Taesung's expression was grim. Boss, if I'm right, Amara and the baby are still in danger, and so are you. Jaewon's phone buzzed again, an unknown number. He answered it cautiously. Mr. Kim. a distorted voice clearly using a modulator. I hear your ex-wife had an unfortunate accident. Who is this? Someone who knows about your little secret. The baby. Taemin, isn't it? Such a beautiful child. Mixed babies are always so cute. It would be a shame if something happened to him too. Jaewon's vision went red. If you touch my son, I will burn down everything you love and make you watch. Brave words from a man whose empire is already crumbling. You've gone soft, Jaewon. Everyone can see it. You're not the killer you used to be. You're just a man playing pretend while real wolves circle. Tell me your name so I know whose grave to dig. The voice laughed, cold and mechanical. Soon, very soon, you'll know exactly who I am, but by then it'll be too late. Enjoy your time with your family while you can. The line went dead. Jaewon stood frozen, the phone clenched in his fist. Taesung watched him carefully. Boss, get every man we trust. Not the full organization. Just the ones we know are loyal. Pull them in tonight. Jaewon's voice was ice. And get security on this hospital. Armed guards on both Amara's room and the NICU. Nobody gets near my family without going through a wall of bullets first. On it. Taesung started making calls. Jaewon returned to Amara's room. Jihai looked up, her eyes red. Is everything okay? No, nothing is okay. Jaewon sat beside the bed again, taking Amara's cold hand. But I'm going to fix it. I promise you, Amara. I'm going to protect our son. I'm going to find out who did this. And I'm going to make them pay. He leaned close to her ear, whispering words meant only for her. I know you left to keep him safe from me, from my world. You were right to be afraid. But now your worst nightmare has come true. My world has found you both anyway. So I'm going to do what I should have done when you first told me you were leaving. I'm going to become the monster you always feared I was, and I'm going to use that monster to keep you safe. Her hand twitched slightly in his. Just a small movement, but enough to make his heart leap. Amara? Can you hear me? Nothing. Just the steady beep of the machines. Please wake up. Please. I need you to wake up. Our son needs you. I need you to tell me what happened, who you saw, what you know. Still nothing. A nurse entered to check vitals. You should get some rest, Mr. Kim. We'll call if there's any change. I'm not leaving. Sir, you've been here for hours. You need sleep. I said I'm not leaving. His tone left no room for argument. The nurse retreated quickly. Taesung appeared in the doorway. Security is in place. 6 men on this floor, 4 in the NICU. Nobody unauthorized gets through. Good. What about Kangdae? He doesn't know we're onto him yet. I've been monitoring his communications. He's planning a meeting tomorrow night with some of his lieutenants. Where? The warehouse in Gangnam, the one we use for off-book operations. Of course, the location Jaewon rarely visited personally. The perfect place for conspiracy. I want surveillance set up. Audio, video, everything. I want to know exactly what he's planning before I move. Boss, maybe we should just pick him up now. Question him. No. If he's working with others, they'll scatter the moment we grab him. I need to see the whole picture first. Jaewon stood, carefully releasing Amara's hand. I'm going to check on Taemin. Stay with her. If anything changes, anything at all, call me immediately. The NICU was quiet at this late hour. Most of the babies were sleeping. Taemin was awake, though, his dark eyes open and staring at nothing in particular. The nurse smiled when she saw Jaewon. He's been awake for about an hour, very alert for his age. Can I hold him again? Of course. She prepared Taemin and placed him carefully in Jaewon's arms. The baby looked up at him with those serious eyes, and Jaewon felt that same overwhelming rush of emotion. Your mother is fighting very hard to come back to you, he whispered. She's the strongest person I know. She left me to protect you. Did you know that? She thought I was too dangerous, that my life would hurt you. Taemin made a small sound, his tiny hand waving in the air. Jaewon offered his finger, and the baby grabbed it with that surprising strength. She was right. I am dangerous. The things I've done, the life I've lived, none of it is something a child should be exposed to. But I'm your father, Taemin, and that means something. It means I'll tear apart anyone who tries to hurt you. It means I'll burn the world down if that's what it takes to keep you safe. Besties, if you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe. Also, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Drop your country or city. We love seeing our global family. Taemin's grip tightened around Jaewon's finger, startlingly strong for someone so small. The baby stared up at him as if studying his face, memorizing it. I won't let them touch you, Jaewon murmured. I swear it. The baby yawned, utterly unconcerned with vows of violence or whispered promises. Jaewon felt something twist painfully in his chest. This child had no idea of the storm gathering around him. No idea that men were already plotting his death simply because of the blood running through his veins. A nurse cleared her throat softly. Mr. Kim, we'll need to put him back in the incubator soon. Jaewon nodded reluctantly and handed Taemin over. As the nurse settled the baby, Jaewon straightened, his face hardening. The softness he allowed himself here, in this room, would not follow him outside. Not tonight. Taesung was waiting in the hallway, phone pressed to his ear, eyes sharp. He ended the call the moment he saw Jaewon. It started, Taesung said quietly. What has? Kangdae's men are moving. 3 vehicles left his compound within the last 30 minutes. Not their usual routes. Where are they headed? 2 toward the eastern districts, 1 toward your penthouse. Jaewon's jaw tightened. He's testing me. Or he's accelerating his timeline, Taesung said. After that phone call you got, he knows you're onto something. Not enough, Jaewon replied. If he thought I knew everything, he'd already be trying to kill me. And the baby? That's his leverage. Kangdae doesn't want me dead yet. He wants me broken first. They walked briskly toward the elevators. Armed security lined the corridor now, men Jaewon trusted with his life. The hospital had become a fortress, but fortresses could fall. I want eyes on Kangdae at all times, Jaewon said. I want his calls recorded, his meetings watched, his men followed. I don't care how discreet you have to be. Taesung nodded, already in motion. They reached the elevator. Jaewon paused, glancing back toward Amara's room. Through the glass, he could see Ji-hae seated beside the bed, holding Amara's hand, whispering softly in Igbo. I won't be long, Jaewon said, more to himself than to Taesung. The penthouse felt different when Jaewon returned. Not quiet, it was never quiet, but tense in a way he hadn't felt before. The guards were alert, weapons visible. Surveillance screens covered one wall, each feed monitored by men who had been with him since the early days. Jiwoo stood near the center of the room, tall and solid, his expression grave. Boss, he said, security breach attempt 10 minutes ago. Exterior cameras picked up 2 men across the street pretending to be maintenance workers. We scared them off. Good, Jaewon said. Did they see Taemin? No. We kept him in the inner safe room the entire time. Jaewon exhaled slowly. That's where he stays. No exceptions. Jiwoo inclined his head. With my life. Jaewon trusted that statement without question. Taesung joined them, pulling up a map on a tablet. Kangdae is meeting tonight, midnight, warehouse in Gangnam. Jaewon's eyes darkened. Who's attending? 5 lieutenants. 2 I recognize as loyal to him. The others are uncertain. That warehouse, Jaewon said slowly. I stopped using it personally 2 years ago. Exactly. He thinks it's off your radar. Nothing is off my radar, Jaewon replied. I just choose when to look. He turned to Jiwoo. You stay here. No matter what you hear, no matter who calls, you do not leave Taemin. What if they attack again? They will, Jaewon said calmly. That's why you'll be ready. Jiwoo's hand rested lightly near his weapon. I won't fail you. Jaewon placed a hand on his shoulder. I know. The warehouse smelled like oil and rust and old secrets and matters. Jaewon watched from the shadows of an adjacent building as Kangdae arrived. The man stepped out of his car smoothly, impeccably dressed, confidence radiating from every movement. To anyone watching, he looked like a loyal lieutenant attending routine business. To Jaewon, he looked like a dead man walking. Audio crackled softly through the earpiece in Jaewon's ear as Kangdae's voice filled the channel. He's distracted, Kangdae was saying. The woman, the baby, he's lost his edge. A chorus of murmurs followed. One of you intercepted the hospital call, Kangdae continued. Good work. If he'd known about the child earlier, things would have been more complicated. Jaewon felt a surge of cold fury. So it was true. Kangdae hadn't just ordered the hit, he'd been manipulating events for months. He still has loyalists, another man said. Taesung especially. Kangdae scoffed. Taesung follows strength. When he sees who really holds power, he'll fall in line. Jaewon's lips curved into a humorless smile. You underestimate Tae-sung, another voice said. But that won't matter soon. Once the African woman dies, Jaewon will lose control completely. Grief makes men sloppy. And the baby? Someone asked, a pause. We take him, Kangdae said. Alive, if possible. Dead, if necessary. The words echoed in Jaewon's skull, each one carving itself deeper. That mixed-blood child is my insurance, Kangdae continued. Jaewon won't move against us if his son's life is in our hands. And if he does, well, it's not like the boy is pure Korean anyway. No great loss. Jaewon's jaw clenched so hard he thought his teeth might crack. You've already lost, Kangdae. You just don't know it yet. The hospital alarms began just after 1 in the morning. Jaewon was halfway back to the city when Taesung's voice cut through his thoughts. Boss, Amara's crashing. What? Jaewon gripped the steering wheel. I'm 5 minutes out. Her heart rate is dropping fast. They're calling a code. I'm on my way. At the same moment, another call came in. Jiwoo. Boss, Jiwoo said, breathing hard. We've got movement. Power just cut on the east side. I count at least 6 armed men. Lock down, Jaewon ordered. Get Taemin into the panic room. Already moving. Gunfire crackled faintly through the phone. Jaewon's chest constricted. Jiwoo, I've got him, Jiwoo said. I won't let them through. The line went dead. Jaewon slammed the accelerator. The hospital hallway was chaos when Jaewon burst through the doors. Doctors and nurses moved with frantic urgency. The shrill tone of a flatline pierced the air. No, Jaewon whispered. He skidded to a halt outside Amara's room just as a nurse blocked his path. Sir, you can't. I'm her husband, he said, his voice like steel. Move. The nurse hesitated, then stepped aside. Inside, Amara lay motionless as doctors worked over her. The defibrillator paddles hovered over her chest. Clear. Her body jerked violently. Nothing. Again, another shock. Still nothing. Jaewon felt the world tilt. Come on, he whispered fiercely. Don't you dare leave him. Don't you dare leave us. Clear. The monitor flickered. A heartbeat. Then another. The doctor let out a breath. We have a rhythm. Jaewon sagged against the wall, his knees nearly giving out. She's alive? He asked hoarsely. For now, the doctor said, but she's critically weak. The next few hours will determine everything. Jaewon nodded numbly. His phone vibrated. Taesung, talk to me. Penthouse was hit, Taesung said. Jiwoo took a bullet but held them off. 3 attackers dead, 1 captured. Taemin is safe. Jaewon closed his eyes, relief flooding through him. Where's Jiwoo? En route to surgery. He kept asking if the baby was okay. Wouldn't let the medics touch him until he knew Taemin was secure. Jaewon swallowed hard. He'll be taken care of, for life. Everything he needs, his family needs, I'll provide it. Boss, Taesung added quietly. The captured man is talking. I'll be there. Jihye appeared in the hallway, her face streaked with tears. Is she? She's alive, Jaewon said. Barely, but alive. Jihye collapsed against the wall in relief. Thank God, thank God. Stay with her, Jaewon said. I have something I need to handle, but I'll be back. Where are you going? To end this. The interrogation room was cold, concrete walls closing in around the single chair bolted to the floor. The man sitting there was bleeding, terrified, and very young. He looked up when Jaewon entered, recognition dawning instantly. You're the boss, the man whispered. Yes, Jaewon said. And you came into my home. You pointed a gun at my son. The man started shaking. I didn't know it was a baby. I swear. You knew, Jaewon cut in. You just didn't care. Jaewon pulled a chair close and sat, his gaze unwavering. Who sent you? Kangdae, the man sobbed. He said you were distracted. Weak. He said this was the moment to move, that you'd gone soft over some foreign woman and a bastard kid. Jaewon's expression didn't change, but something deadly flickered in his eyes. How many are with him? I don't know exactly. A lot. He's been paying people quietly for months, setting things up, building alliances with rival organizations. He promised them shares of your territory once you were gone. Names, Jaewon said softly. The man rattled them off, voice breaking, desperate to live. When he was done, Jaewon stood. Take him away, he told Taesung. Make sure the police find him alive, with a full confession. I want Kangdae's corruption on record. Taesung hesitated. Police? Yes, Jaewon said. It's time. I'm done with this life. but I'm going to burn it all down properly before I walk away. Back at the hospital, Jaewon sat beside Amara's bed as dawn broke through the window. Her hand was still cold in his, but her heart monitor beeped steadily now. Jihye had gone home to rest, leaving him alone with his unconscious ex-wife. I heard what Kangdae said about Taemin, Jaewon said quietly. About him being mixed. About him not mattering because he's not pure Korean. I want you to know something, Amara. That boy is perfect. He's perfect because he's ours. Because he has your strength and your beauty and your fierce heart. And yes, because he has both our worlds in him. He paused, his thumb brushing across her knuckles. I used to think I knew what strength was. I thought it was power, control, fear. But watching you fight to stay alive, watching you sacrifice everything to protect our son, I realized I didn't know anything. You're stronger than I ever was, and Taemin will be too. The door opened softly. Taesung entered. Boss, everything's in place. The prosecutor has the evidence. Kangdae's men are being rounded up, and Kangdae himself just got the message that Amara woke up and talked. Jaewon stood. Where is he now? On his way here. He thinks he can finish what he started before the police arrive. Jaewon's expression was cold. Good. Let him come. Jaewon stood alone in the hospital parking garage an hour later, staring at his reflection in the dark windshield of his car. His phone buzzed with a message from Taesung. The bait is set. Kangdae believes Amara woke up and talked. He's on his way. ETA 5 minutes. Jaewon straightened his jacket and checked his weapon one last time. Let's finish this, he murmured. The parking garage smelled of oil and damp concrete. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting long, broken shadows across the empty levels. Jaewon stood perfectly still between two pillars, his breathing slow, controlled. Around him, Taesung's men waited in silence, hidden in stairwells, behind concrete columns, inside parked vehicles with engines idling low. No one spoke, no one moved. They were predators waiting for the final step into the trap. Jaewon checked his watch. 2:17 in the morning, right on time. Tires screeched faintly as a black sedan descended the ramp. The sound echoed through the garage, sharp and impatient. The car stopped abruptly several spaces away. The engine cut. Kangdae stepped out. He looked around cautiously, hand near his jacket, eyes sharp. Confidence still radiated from him, but something else lurked beneath it now, unease. Fear, maybe? He had come alone, despite the danger. That told Jaewon everything. Kangdae thought this was his last chance to control the situation. You shouldn't have come, Jaewon said, stepping into the light. Kangdae froze. Then he laughed, a short, incredulous sound. So it's true, you're here yourself. I told you I'd be waiting, Jaewon replied calmly. Kangdae's eyes darted around the garage. Where is she? Safe, Jaewon said, and talking. Kangdae's jaw tightened. You're bluffing. Am I? Jaewon took another step forward. You always underestimated her. You thought she was just a liability, a weakness, some foreign woman who didn't belong in our world. She was, Kangdae snapped. She made you soft. She made you careless. You married beneath you, beneath our culture, and look where it got you. No, Jaewon said, his voice deadly quiet. She made me human, and that's something you've never understood. Kangdae's hand slipped fully inside his jacket. Don't, Jaewon warned. Too late. Kangdae drew his gun, and the lights snapped on. Red and blue flooded the garage. Sirens wailed. Armed police poured in from every entrance, weapons raised, shouting commands. Drop the weapon now! Kangdae spun, disbelief flooding his face. You called the police? I warned you, Jaewon said quietly. You tried to kill my family. Kangdae laughed again, but this time it was frantic. You think this ends things? You think turning me in makes you clean? You're worse than me. You're betraying your own blood. You stopped being my family the moment you aimed a gun at my son. Police tackled Kangdae to the ground, wrenching the weapon from his grip. He screamed as cuffs snapped around his wrists. As they dragged him past, Kangdae twisted his head toward Jaewon, eyes blazing. The life never lets you go, he spat. You'll never be free. Jaewon leaned in close, his voice low enough that only Kangdae could hear. Watch me. Amara woke slowly. At first, there was only darkness, then sound, a rhythmic beeping, the soft hiss of machines, the dull ache spreading through her chest and head. She tried to move. Pain answered. Easy, A familiar voice said, trembling, "Don't move." Her eyes fluttered open. Jaewon. He was sitting beside her bed, his face drawn, eyes red-rimmed with exhaustion and something dangerously close to tears. "One," she whispered. He exhaled sharply, like he'd been holding his breath for days. "You're awake." She frowned slightly, trying to focus. "The baby. He's safe," Jaewon said immediately. "Taemin is safe." Her eyes filled instantly. "You know about him." "I know everything," he said softly. "And I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry you went through it alone." She managed a weak smile through her tears. "I was trying to protect him." "I know," Jaewon whispered. "And you were right, about everything. About me, about my world, about the danger." Tears slipped down her temples into her hair. "I didn't want him to grow up afraid. I didn't want him to see what I saw in you, the violence, the coldness. I wanted him to know peace." "He will," Jaewon said firmly. "I promise you, Amara, he will." She looked at him carefully, her artist's eye seeing details others might miss. "You look different." "I am different," he said. "I had to become someone else to protect him, to protect you." A doctor stepped quietly into the room, checking monitors, smiling in surprise. "Well, would you look at that? Welcome back, Miss Okafor. You gave us quite a scare." "Am I going to be okay?" Amara asked. "You've got a long recovery ahead," the doctor replied. "But you're stable. Your vitals are improving. That's a miracle, given everything you went through." The doctor left them alone again. Amara swallowed, her throat dry. "What happens now?" Jaewon reached for her hand, holding it carefully, as if it were something precious and fragile. "I ended it." She stiffened slightly. "Ended what?" "All of it," he said. "The organization, the deals, the violence. I turned over everything. Evidence, accounts, names, locations. Kangdae is in custody, his network too. Everyone who came after you, everyone who threatened Taemin, they're all finished." Her eyes widened. "Jaewon, you can't just walk away from that life. They'll come after you." "They can't," he said. "I made a deal with the prosecutor, full immunity for both of us in exchange for everything. I testified. I gave them enough to dismantle 3 major organizations. It's over." She searched his face, disbelief slowly giving way to something else. Hope, fragile and tentative. "You did this for us?" "For Taemin," he said, "and for you. You left to save him from my world. Now I'm leaving that world to be with you both, if you'll have me." Her grip tightened weakly around his fingers. "I never stopped loving you, Jaewon. Even when I hated what you'd become, I never stopped." His voice broke. "Neither did I. Not for a single day." "Can I see him?" Amara whispered. "Can I see our son?" Jaewon smiled, the first genuine smile she'd seen in years. "They're bringing him up now." Jiwoo survived. The bullet had missed anything vital, lodging in the muscle of his shoulder instead of his lung. When Jaewon visited him in recovery, Jiwoo tried to sit up and failed, grinning despite the pain. "Baby okay?" Jiwoo asked immediately, his first words. "Perfect," Jaewon replied. "Because of you." Jiwoo nodded once, satisfied. "Worth it, every second. You'll never have to work another day in your life," Jaewon told him. "Your family will be taken care of. I've set up accounts for your children's education, your wife's medical expenses, everything." Jiwoo shook his head faintly. "Just promise me something." "What?" "Let him grow up normal. Let him play soccer and go to school and have friends and never know what a gun feels like in his hands. Let him be a kid." Jaewon smiled, his throat tight. "That's the plan. That's the only plan." The days that followed were quiet, unnervingly so for a man who'd lived in constant noise and danger. Investigations unfolded, arrests were made. Headlines whispered rumors of a fallen empire without ever naming him directly. Jaewon signed documents, met prosecutors, handed over keys to a life he no longer wanted. When Amara was strong enough, Jaewon wheeled her through the hospital corridors, Taemin bundled against her chest. She held him like she'd never let go, whispering to him in Igbo, telling him stories of his grandmother's village, of red earth and palm trees and family he'd meet someday. Nurses smiled as they passed. No one recognized them. No one knew the woman in the wheelchair had nearly died, or that the man pushing her had once ruled Seoul's underworld. For the first time in years, Jaewon was just a man pushing his family forward. Taesung visited one afternoon, wearing jeans instead of his usual sharp suit. "It's done," he said. "The last assets are liquidated. The accounts are closed. The rest gone, like it never existed. And you? Jaewon asked. Taesung smiled, something peaceful in his expression. I found a place, small restaurant in Busan. Nothing fancy, just good food and honest work. Jaewon laughed softly. You always did like cooking more than killing. Turns out I'm better at it too, Taesung said. They embraced quietly, two men who'd seen too much darkness finally stepping into light. Take care of them, Taesung said, always. 6 months later, the ocean stretched endlessly beneath a pale morning sky. Waves rolled in gently, unbothered by past sins or future fears. Jaewon stood barefoot in the sand, laughing as Taemin tried to crawl away from him, chubby hands sinking into the beach. The baby was 8 months old now, strong and healthy, his dark curls catching the sunlight, his skin a beautiful blend of his parents'. Come back here, Jaewon said, scooping him up. You're not escaping that easily. Taemin squealed in delight, grabbing his father's face with sticky fingers. From the porch of the small house overlooking the shore, Amara watched them, her hand resting on the railing. The scars remained, physical and otherwise, a faint line across her forehead, aches on cold mornings. But she was whole, strong. Her paintings lined the walls inside, vibrant colors capturing this new life they were building. Jaewon joined her, baby cradled against his chest. Any regrets? She asked softly. He shook his head. Only that I didn't leave sooner. That I wasted so much time being someone I hated. She leaned into him. We're here now. That's what matters. Taemin reached up, grabbing both their faces, pulling them together with surprising strength. They laughed as the baby babbled between them, trying to form words, his little voice filling the space with pure joy. Amara rested her head on Jaewon's shoulder, watching the waves. My mother called yesterday. She wants to meet him. Meet you again, properly this time. I'd like that, Jaewon said. I owe her an apology and a promise that her daughter and grandson will never be in danger again. She said she's proud of me, for protecting him, for being strong enough to leave. You've always been the strongest person I know. Taemin yawned, his little head drooping against Jaewon's chest. Nap time, Amara said, smiling. They went inside together, the small house filled with warmth and light. Nothing like the cold penthouse that had once been Jaewon's fortress. This place had family photos on the walls, toys scattered on the floor, the smell of Amara's cooking mixing with the salt air from outside. Jaewon laid Taemin in his crib, watching as the baby's eyes fluttered closed. He stayed there for a long moment, just watching his son breathe, still amazed that this perfect little human existed. Amara wrapped her arms around him from behind. They said the Mafia never lets you go, she murmured. Jaewon turned to face her, cupping her face in his hands. They were wrong. I let it go, and I found something infinitely better. He kissed her, soft and gentle, a promise and an apology and a future all wrapped into one moment. Outside, the sun climbed higher, casting their shadows long across the sand, not figures running from the past, but a family standing still, finally safe, finally free, finally home. And if you've stayed with us until this moment, if you felt every twist and turn of Jaewon and Amara's journey, please don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Drop a comment below and tell us what you thought. Did you see the twist coming? What would you have done in Amara's place? Your engagement helps us bring you more incredible stories like this one. The sun dipped lower on the horizon. Taemin stirred in his sleep, making small, contented sounds. Jaewon and Amara stood together in the doorway of their son's room, watching over him, two people who'd survived hell to find their way to peace. And in that small house by the ocean, far from Seoul's neon lights and dark alleys, a family that had been broken found itself whole again. Thank you for watching Seoul Africa Stories. Please subscribe to support this channel and help us bring you more unforgettable stories. And don't forget, comment where you're watching from. See you in the next story. The end.